What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and welcome back for another episode of Poker Hand. Today, we're going to be breaking down a hand from the lodge that Mariano played where he had the quads. It is sad. Mariano, pocket sixes. He's been VIPing a few hands.
Nice.
Raising it up. Alex, hadn't heard from him for maybe an orbit, but he's back. King three of spades, raising it up. I feel like there are some battles that are going to happen. The Mariano Alex one and the Mariano Andrew one already brewing.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell.
Mariano does call. Our hand begins at 5,100 with a $100 ante, and Mariano opening it up to $300 here in early position. Definitely a standard open. Action folds to Alex on the cutoff, who makes a little bit of a light 3-bet here with King three of spades. As you get deeper like these players are, you could look to play a few more hands pre-flop. And then post-flop, you have some unlikely hands that can hit some boards that your opponent might think you're bluffing. And also, you can really put the pressure on them in different situations because it's kind of hard to put in this much money unless you have a very, very strong hand. Everyone else gets out of the way. Action back over on Mariano. With pocket sixes, you're mainly going to want to just call and take a flop. It's a reasonable price, 3-bet to $1,000. You could maybe mix in a 4-bet every now and then. I'm not sure if you're supposed to fold pre, but that wouldn't surprise me because it's ring. I find that disgusting, though, and would never do it. So let's go ahead and take a flop. They're deep, guys. Oh! Quads for Mariano. Wow. Mariano, did he take the lead here? I think he called a 3-bet. That's small. Alex is going to make the call. Flop comes 6-6-4 rainbow. Quads here for Mariano on the flop. Massive hand. Unfortunately for him, though, his opponent doesn't have all too much. Just king high here for Alex. Not a situation where you're likely to make too much money. And Mariano decides to go ahead and just lead 1/3 pot on the flop. Really not a fan of this. I think when you call a 3-bet, you can just check your whole range over to your opponent. There are probably some boards that it makes sense to have some small leads, but I just don't see that being the case on this one. And regardless, you're making your life tough for no reason. Just check all your hands and don't get into fancy situations like this one. Now, this hand should probably end here, and Alex should probably just let it go. But Alex is not that kind of player. He's not just a 3-bet and fold to a 1/3 pot kind of guy, unfortunately for him, because if he was, he could have saved a lot of money here. Anyway, Alex thinks about it, does decide to just go for the call, and let's take a turn. 7 on the turn. Alex turns a straight draw. How can Mariano extract maximum value here? Checks it over. Alex is a very aggressive player. He might choose to fire here. If he does, those chips are never coming home.
It'd be cool if you could play music and it wouldn't get picked
Checks
up.
it back. Wise check. The turn comes as 7, creating a backdoor club draw. Some hands now getting there on the turn. Maybe something like 9-8 will have an open ender. A7 suited could hit top pair. A few different hands that might make sense now for Alex to have here in position. Mariano now checks with his 4 of a kind. And I'm going to have to go off the cuff here, guys, because I'm not really sure how things go when you do 1/3 pot bets. So we're going to just get into it, and I'll give you my best thoughts. I think in Alex's shoes here, I'd probably bet the turn. You're really fine if he check raises you and you have to bet fold just the gutter ball. So I think I would start to bet the turn here, look to maybe barrel some different runouts. You could maybe look to give this up and barrel with hands like 9-8 suited if you floated those on the flop. But, you know, realistically, I don't even think this is a hand I would call on the flop. So I would definitely look to turn this into a bluff here. Every now and then does make sense to check back and bet the river. When you have spades, you unblock all of the flop backdoor flush draws. But this video is on YouTube, and so there's no way most people even know what that means. Anyway, turn does go check, check, and let's take a river. King on the river.
Feels like that technology should be a thing.
It's going to cost him a little bit more money.
Back there to where we can hear it, but
Now, what's Mariano do? Does he go for the trap or does he go for a bet? Looking like he's using for some chips.
Ooh, I like this.
Small bet on the river, 800.
only because when you don't have like the commotion of the,
Alex is at least
what?
calling. He's got top pair. It's very disguised. But now he has to ask himself, should he raise or just slow play it?
I feel it's relaxed. I feel it's
He
relaxed.
might decide that this is a hand like 8s or
Either that, or
9s.
everybody's get like 5,
needs
6
to
shots
raise.
in, and then just create the own action.
That's another method.
He's reaching for chips.
Oh.
3,000 to go here on the river. Yep, still quads, Mariano. Still quads.
Do you have wine? Wine?
You guys should be in this booth. Doug like tells a joke and then looks at us to see if we're laughing and we're just not.
Who's the wine connoisseur?
What's that? He's a wine
Did you want a
disrespect my friend
Cabernet,
Bill like that.
Sauvignon Blanc? What do you want?
Mariano's gonna put in a raise.
I want that. I'm kidding.
18,000.
Need it,
Bet
right?
3-bet.
Dang.
83 Bordeaux.
Caught a live one.
Okay, well,
I don't feel like it. Barman had one yesterday. It was alright. It was cool.
The river comes an offsuit king. Alex unfortunately gets there. The question now is going to be just how much money is he going to lose? Mariano now decides to go ahead and bet 1/4 pot here with pocket sixes. I think this could be okay. I don't really use this size that much. When I play poker, I usually use 1/3, but certainly 1/4 could make some sense. Maybe a hand like 10s or jacks where you want to get some thin value from a hand like 8s or a hand like 8-7 suited or something where your opponent has some kind of pair, or maybe even ace queen. This small bet gives you a chance to value bet thin against all of those hands. But what Mariano is setting up here is far more sinister. He's looking to set up to bet to induce a king to raise so that he can 3-bet the river, right? And this could make sense to do with a hand like, let's say, for example, if Mariano had like 8-7 suited, where he has a pair that wants to get thin value, but then blocks some of the boats. He can bluff with that hand and then value bet with this one. Anyway, now to Alex. Even though he has a king with a weak kicker, this is a hand you're definitely going to want to be raising. It's just simply too unlikely that you're beat. You really only lose to hands like boats or maybe 6-5 suited. But realistically, if you're losing here, it's probably going to be to a hand like 7s or 4s. Of course, we can see Mariano's cards, so we know he's got the quads, but it's way more likely Mariano has some kind of middling pair that's trying to get some thin value. Alex decides to raise to $3,000. I might even go a little bit bigger in Alex's shoes here, something more like 3,500, 4,000, but still seems like a reasonable size. Back to Mariano. Now the question is, what size should he make it? And I really think the answer to that is he needs to go big. The reason is simple. His opponent is saying he has a king. It's kind of unlikely that he has much better than a king in this situation. If Alex had a hand like a full house or a straight or 3 of a kind, he'd probably be betting the turn himself. And he's unlikely to have played kings like this. He's likely to have raised the flop. And he's also likely to have bet the turn. So in this situation, Alex's hand is kind of face up. He's either bluffing or he has a king. Because of that, when you do raise here, you want to go big so you can make sure to work in bluffs with some good fold equity. And when you have strong hands, you have a chance to get paid. Mariano makes it $18,000 to go. A seriously large raise here from Mariano. I like the size and I like the choice. I like this hand. Back over to Alex. Very tough spot. This is one of those situations in poker where you know it's a bad spot for you and your hand is kind of obvious. So you have to think to yourself, what kinds of hands do I want to have in this situation? Well, Mariano is saying that he has essentially a full house. Because of that, it's a lot better for you to have a 7 or 4 in your hand if possible. Now, I'm not saying I think you have king 7 or king 4 that often in Alex's shoes, but if you can have king 3, you certainly can have king 7, and you certainly can have king 4. Those would definitely be better hands because you block more of the full houses that your opponent is representing. I do think you want to make sure you don't have a middling king. Something like king 9 suited would be a bad call because you really are hoping that Mariano is turning something like 9s into a bluff. So in my opinion here in Alex's shoes, I think you want to mainly continue with the king 7 suited, king 4 suited, a little bit of ace king, and I don't actually mind every now and then getting in there with king 3. Note here that spades are also kind of nice because it's less likely Mariano has some kind of, or it's more likely Mariano has some kind of backdoor flush draw bluff that could be leading the flop. So cliff notes here are very large raise. Your opponent has a boat or they don't. I would look to mainly fold, but every now and then I don't mind making a hero call with a hand like this that unblocks those middling pairs that could be bluffing. All right, that's my analysis. Back to reality. Mariano's got pocket quads. Can Alex find a way to let go of river top pair?
Look at the box too.
Painful spot here, Jamie.
He just knows Mariano's good enough to not have it, too.
That makes it more difficult. Against some players, you can just let it go, but when it's someone that's buying in deep and is aggressive, you don't want to raise here and then just have them bluff you. But it's also a weird spot. It's a small bet, bet 3-bet, and 3-bet pot. This isn't something that happens a lot, so
Those paintings, by the way, very sick.
it's a
When I
respect
first watched
tank
the
here
stream,
that he's
I
thinking
thought it
about
was
this.
just a lens,
It's a lot
you
of
know, that was
respect for
kinda
Mariano.
doing the thing. And then when I got here to see that they were made like that, it was so cool.
I think that's.
This looks like he really wants to call.
Is it really?
I think so.
Great job, Haley. Wow. We want to get for the back, American Gothic.
He does call.
Wow.
Quads. Fuck.
Wow.
Wow. No, he cannot. Thank you for joining me today for Poker Hands. We have a stream going on right now over at Poker at the Lodge. More poker like this happening for you to enjoy. I'll put a link in the description below. Head on over there and support the Lodge Poker stream. Thanks for watching today, guys, and I'll see you guys again soon.